Seconds. You ready? Call this meeting to order. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Adoption of agenda. Moved by Councillor Thorold, seconded by Councillor Wilson, that Council adopt the agenda for the meeting of June 1st, 2021 as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Adoption of minutes. Council meeting minutes of May 18th, 2021, moved by Councillor Long. Is Councillor Longo here? Yes. There you are. Moved by Councillor Longo, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that the council meeting minutes of May 18th, 2021 be hereby adopted. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Mayor's report. Yesterday, we lowered the flag at City Hall to half-mast in honor of the 215 children who were recently found in a mass grave at a former residential school in Kamloops. Our condolences, thoughts, and prayers are extended to the families of the victims and the Indigenous community. Let us take a moment of silence. Let's now observe a moment of silence. The flags will remain lowered across Niagara's municipalities from May 31st to June 8th, 1 hour for each of the lives that were taken. A joint statement was issued by Regional Chair Bradley and Niagara's 12 mayors and has been distributed and posted on our social media pages. Please take the time to read it. June is Pride Month, and this week, Pride Niagara celebrates with a week of virtual events. This morning, we joined all municipalities across Niagara, as well as the region, Niagara Regional Police Service, Brock University, Niagara College, the District School Board of Niagara, and the Niagara Catholic District School Board in raising the Pride flag at City Hall. It was then immediately lowered to half-mast to acknowledge and honor our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Pride Niagara stated, "Our LGBTQ plus community stands together, hand in hand, not only in times of celebration, but times of struggle and grief. We stand with our Indigenous community, the survivors of residential schools, and their families. We stand together in support and unity." Pride Niagara is a celebration of Niagara's sexual and gender diverse community and its supporters. They provide social activities and information for the LGBTQ plus in the Niagara region. As well, out in Niagara, represent the diversity of Niagara's 2SL GBTQQIA plus communities, including age, race, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, and lived experience of disability. The City of Thorold puts a priority on being a diverse, inclusive, and welcoming community free of racism and discrimination. As a member of the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, which the region joined and our municipality signed on to, we must lead by example and constantly strive to improve. June is Seniors Month. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. there will be virtual events. June 2nd and June 30th, virtual bingo. June 9th, virtual trivia. June 16th, virtual exercise class. On September 8th, Senior of the Year Awards will be hosted, but more information on this will come closer to the date. These events are presented in partnership with the Ontario Paper Thorold Senior Centre, City of Thorold Age Friendly Committee, Thorold Public Library, and the Thorold Community Activities Group. To register for any of these events, email programs@thoroldlibrary.ca or phone 905-227-2581. That's programs@thoroldlibrary.ca. A valid email address will be required at time of registration. On Thursday, May 20th, CAO Manoj Delwaria, Economic Development Manager Marco Marino, Councillor Neal, and I attended the NBOTAC virtual lunch meeting where MP Vance Badaway was the guest speaker. He presented an update on the recently presented budget as well as COVID-19 and vaccine rollout. NBOTAC stands for Niagara Board of Trade and Commerce. On Friday, May 21st, I met virtually with Brock President, University President Gervon Furin. We discussed community-related issues and future partnership opportunities. Gervin is leaving the university at the end of June to take over as president of George Brown College in Toronto. I stressed the importance of continuing to build on the progress that we made both in the community and on the economic development partnership front. Provost Lynn Wells has been appointed as interim president for a period of up to 2 years while the search for a successor is completed. It has been a pleasure to work with President Furin, particularly on community-related issues, and I wish him and his wife Kathy all the best moving forward. The regional chair and mayors met virtually on Friday, May 21st. We discussed common messaging and any potential Niagara approach following the provincial reopening announcements the day before. Vaccination update following our public health call on May 14th, border reopening, and business COVID-19 recovery plan and issues and concerns. On behalf of City Council, I would like to thank our Public Works and Community Services staff for the excellent job in getting our splash pads up and running on Saturday, May 22nd. This came on short notice after the province made the change to allow them to open. This Sunday, June 6th, One Thorold will be hosting their annual Thorold community-wide food drive. Please check the One Thorold or City of Thorold Facebook page for event details and ways to volunteer or contribute to this very important food drive. A list of much-needed items and drop-off locations are included in the posting. May 23rd to 29th was Paramedic Services Week. Paramedics play a critical role on the front lines of Ontario's healthcare system, including being able to administer COVID-19 vaccines. Thank you for your heroic work you do every day and being there when we need you most. Our sincere appreciation. On Friday, May 28th, Dr. Hergy provided his public health COVID-19 status update. This meeting takes place every 2 weeks, with the next one scheduled for Friday, June 11th at 2 p.m. Once again, these meetings are live streamed on the Niagara Region website and available to all. Effective May 23rd, youth aged 12 and over became eligible to book for their COVID-19 vaccine appointment through ontario.ca/bookvaccine and the provincial call center, as well as select pharmacies administering the Pfizer vaccine. Starting this week, Ontario is shortening the interval between doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, starting with adults aged 80 and older. Vaccine rollout information is continually changing and being updated as vaccine supply becomes known. This information is available on the Niagara Region website under COVID-19 vaccination clinics. All necessary links are there, including the provincial booking link. We will be posting information and updates as well on the city website and Facebook page. Information on the provincial 3-step roadmap to safely reopen the province can be found on their website, news.ontario.ca. Other provincial media releases can be found there as well. That website is news.ontario.ca. As stated many times, as vaccine rollout continues at the mass vaccination clinics, designated pharmacies, and healthcare providers, we will get to a better place, but we must stay the course. Following public health safety measures is imperative. Please follow these measures, continue to support one another, our frontline workers, those less fortunate or living alone, and more than ever, our local businesses, who are the backbone of our community. Congratulations to Thorold native David Urquhart on being appointed full-time head coach of the McGill University men's hockey team. A 2018 inductee into the McGill Sports Hall of Fame, he has spent the last 3 seasons as an assistant coach of the San Diego Gulls, an American Hockey League affiliate of the Anaheim Ducks. Once again, congratulations, David. On a sadder note, we lost a true icon and, for me personally, a good friend last week with the passing of Tim Sennett. Tim was the driving force behind the Canal Bank Shuffle and Blues in the Battlefield, was a true visionary, and brought the top blues acts from across North America to Thorold when most would have thought it impossible. As Kathy Pelche said in her Thorold Today article, it would be difficult to find anyone whose selfless volunteerism has brought more musical entertainment to the city of Thorold or raised more money for charity than Tim Sennett. To his wife Lynn, daughters Deanna, Kelly, and Ellen, their families, his sisters Jackie and Mary Rose, and friends, our heartfelt condolences. I can't think of a better legacy we can leave in Tim's honor than keeping the blues alive here in the city of Thorold. And that's the end of my mayor's report. Public meetings. Proposed official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision modification. Rolling Meadows Phase 14-16. Opening remarks and purpose of the meeting. The public meeting is being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 22, 34, and 51 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended. The applicant seeks approval to amend the City of Thorold Official Plan, Zoning Bylaw 2140-97, and Zoning Bylaw Number 60, 2019, to rearrange the draft plan to provide the institutional block in a different location, park blocks along Uppers Lane, and provide a modified range of housing types, while removing a portion of the commercial component. The applicant also seeks approval for a draft plan modification to account for the proposed changes. Council will receive and consider all comments received at the public meeting. No decision on the applications is being made this evening. Official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. Any of the following, no later than 20 days after giving notice, may appeal the decision by filing with the city the notice of appeal that must set out the reasons for the appeal, accompanied by the tribunal's fee. The applicant, a person or public body who before the amendment and bylaw were passed made oral submissions at the public meeting or written submissions to council, and the minister. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or provide written submissions to council before the bylaw was passed, the tribunal will determine if there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Plan of subdivision. Any of the following no later than 20 days after giving notice may appeal the decision, the lapsing provision, or any of the conditions to the tribunal by filing with the city the notice of appeal that must set out the reasons for the appeal, accompanied by the tribunal's fee. The applicant, a public body who before council made its decision, made oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to council. A person listed in subsection 5148.3 of the Planning Act, who before council made its decision made oral or written submissions to council, the minister, the municipality in which the land is located. If a person or public body did not make an oral submission at the public meeting or provide written submissions to council before the decision was given, the tribunal will determine if there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. For further information on appeals and/or preserving your appeal rights, please speak with the city planner. Presentation from applicant's planning consultant, Upper Canada Consultants, and presenting is William Haiku. William, you're up. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen here for a brief PowerPoint presentation. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor, and council members, and anyone watching this evening. Thanks for having me. My name is William Haiku. I'm a planner with Upper Canada Consultants, and I'm representing the owner of the Rolling Meadows subdivision for tonight's public meeting for the official plan, zoning bylaw amendment, and the red line revision to the draft plan of subdivision. Over the last year, since the approval of the phase 13 and phase 15 red line revision in 2020 and the recent OPA and ZBA approvals earlier this spring, discussions with the existing builders in the Rolling Meadows subdivision has continued. The success of the recent approvals and the ongoing market needs has led to an immediate need and requirement to prepare the next two subsequent phases for development. The intent of these applications is to make the necessary adjustments to phases 14 and 16, moving north away from Highway 20 and from Highway 58 south to Uppers Lane. As you can see here, I've drawn some arrows to the various different locations of the subdivision. The first 11 phases to the north have been completed, registered, and constructed. Phase 12 to the south is now registered and under construction. Both phases 13 and 15 that were previously approved are well underway and quickly approaching registration. The developer's intent is to finalize the development west of the hydro corridor. This includes the changes to phase 14 that will see an updated lotting fabric for the residential lands, and we'll see a creation of two new park blocks at the main intersection of Barker Parkway and Uppers Lane. The phase 16 lands are to be lotted out for residential development, and will seek relocation of the Catholic School Board site to a future phase, phase 17 on the east side of the hydro corridor. In regard to the official plan amendment, you can see the revised school block location from part 1 to part 6. At this time, we've had conversations with the school board, and they have not indicated they have any concerns with the change. In fact, the Catholic School Board prefers that the new location, as it'll be right beside the Niagara District School Board site, so that kind of combines the two school locations. There's the proposed revision to include new parkland at the Uppers Lane and Barker Parkway intersection. You can see that area in green there. Right now, there's an existing Trans-Canada pipeline, and that creates some awkward triangles and geometry for the lot lines, creating an inefficient design there. So we had an opportunity to review the commercial lands across the balance of the draft plan of subdivision, and feel that the removal of these two blocks does not result in a deficient area for commercial. There are currently 7 hectares, or approximately just over 17 acres of unused highway commercial lands along Highway 20, and that just includes the lands within this draft plan. There are lands on the other side of Highway 20 as well. However, we still are maintaining a block for commercial use at the Uppers Lane and Barker Parkway intersection. We reviewed some similar communities and feel that this 3-acre block is sufficient to provide those neighborhood commercial type requirements. In regard to the zoning bylaw amendment, we are revising the lot fabric, and so we've got to update the zoning to reflect that updated lotting fabric. We're applying for similar site-specific provisions that were previously approved with our last red line. We maintain the usable area and the village square commercial component. And that's something that we really seek to maintain. And that's why we've placed the parks in that location. So the next steps, obviously this is the public meeting tonight, and staff will bring forward a report for council's consideration at a future date. If we get the necessary approvals, we proceed to engineering design and clearance of conditions, and the appropriate approvals with the appropriate agencies. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Are there any questions for William? Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you more or less asking for these amendments on the commercial entity and bringing in residential because the commercial component has changed since the development was first proposed 20 years ago?
Yeah, there's certainly aspects to a commercial land use that have certainly changed over the last 20 years. I think the recent changes over the last 2 years have even changed that further with the COVID situation and people going to stores less. But I think it's more related to the overabundance of commercial space along Highway 20. Like as I indicated, there's quite a large amount of land there set aside for highway commercial. And that's along the main arterial. Obviously that Highway 20 is under the MTO control, but we feel that is the most appropriate location for some of the bigger commercial uses, whereas we'll still be able to achieve approximately 20 to 30,000 square feet of commercial space in the village core at the main intersection of Uppers Lane and Barker Parkway. So we feel that that's adequate to serve for commercial neighborhood type uses such as convenience stores, dental offices, smaller things rather than some of the big box.
Instead of big box stores. But obviously, thank you very much, because of Amazon and the Wayfarers also, and how they've blossomed since COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Okay, any further questions for William? Seeing none, thank you, William, for your presentation. Up next, presentation from city staff. Bryn O'Neill, Senior Planner. Go ahead, Bryn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so as William Highcoop did mention, this is regarding Rolling Meadows subdivision, phases 14 and 16. The applications are for a red line revision, a draft plan revision, an official plan amendment, and a zoning bylaw amendment. This is a location map showing the areas that will be impacted by the application. So it's a variety of areas within the Rolling Meadows subdivision. Most of it is residential and is being rezoned for slightly different site-specific requirements for the residential zones. And of course, as Mr. Highcoop mentioned, the institutional block, which is currently proposed for the north end of this location map, is proposed to be relocated to the east. And then a small component of the commercial land that is designated and zoned for commercial is proposed to be redesignated and rezoned for residential as well as farmland. So this is the same map you just saw. It's basically showing the changes to the plan, relatively minor in terms of the the residential changes and of course the institutional relocation and the new park block and removal of commercial is the larger change. I won't go through these in too much detail because Mr. Haiku went through it for you, but it's just kind of detailing the changes. And as you can see, a small portion of the commercial is being proposed to be designated residential, and then the majority is the park blocks. However, on the east side of Barker Parkway, commercial will remain, and that is the same zoning. So when we circulated this application to residents within 120 meters, we did receive some concerns. And the concerns were mostly related to the relocation of the institutional blocks, the school block, and then the removal of commercial space. I believe we have some residents on the meeting as well who will likely speak to these concerns as well. I will just note that the institutional is not being removed, it is just being relocated at this time. And the commercial, although there is a removal of the commercial space, there is still some being provided at the same intersection of Barker and Uppers Lane. So it's not a complete removal of the commercial area. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Okay, I'll open the floor up for questions for Bryn, and I got Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I don't know if you were with us, but a couple of years ago when a lot of these bylaws were in the process of being changed, I'm pretty sure one of the planners said the provincial government might have some issues with some of the rezoning along Highway 20. Would that affect this? That would have been west down near Cataract Road area. So would that affect this proposal too?
Through the mayor, so this application is specific to areas within the Rolling Meadows subdivision, so not along Highway 20.
No, I realize that.
Yeah, so there would be no impact, and I can't really speak to, I guess, what that planner may have been speaking to. So I don't know if perhaps Denise has more information on that, but there should be no impact to the application.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Did you want to add anything, Denise? Manager of Planning, I see you there.
No, through the mayor. Sorry, Councillor Kenny. I'm not quite sure what the conversation was with the previous planner and what that is in relation to.
Okay.
Is there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation, Bryn. And now I'm going to public participation. Public input. Now at this time, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on the applications received? Please indicate to the clerk your desire to speak. Please provide your name and address for the public record. And Matt, who's up first? Okay. Justin, could you please state your name and address, and you're up.
Justin Brown, 14 Cinnamon Street in Rolling Meadows. All right, well, I guess I get to go first. I was kind of hoping someone would jump on the grenade before I had to hop up, but here I am. So thanks for taking the time to hear me out here. I think, there's definitely some concerns from our community. I know people I speak to in this community have the same concerns. We've got close to about 300 members of a Rolling Meadows Facebook group who have all expressed some concerns with the commercial blocks being taken away. I think, to a degree, yes, the retail has changed due to COVID-19, but I don't think there's any sense that this is a permanent change. And I feel like some of these decisions being made to remove commercial and that being indicated as a reason is sort of firing from the hip on this. Additionally, talking about Highway 20 being a place for commercial zoning, I think that it goes a little bit contrary to the original marketing materials that revolved around Rolling Meadows. And I know a lot of us that moved in here came in here because we were looking at a master planned community. A master planned community with a town square, with everything, a 10-minute walk from the town square. There used to be a billboard which was positioned at the entrance of the subdivision, which has recently disappeared, but this, you can find this online quite easily, but it does state very clearly that everything would be within a 10-minute walk of the town square. So, seeing this disappear, it's really starting to eliminate a lot of the desirables of the community that led people to move here in the beginning. And we know a lot of people have been here for quite some time. I know that this community's been plagued by several delays over the years as we've been trying to get things up and running. But now we're seeing a lot of these aspects of the community which appear to be whittled away, in favor of just more homes. And when we look at the area around us, realistically, we're talking a 10 or 15-minute drive to most areas versus, the 10-minute walk, which was being proposed as part of the master plan here. So, we're seeing. I don't like the direction that these changes are going in. A lot of the people in the community share this viewpoint. You look at the lack of desirables, and then in addition to that, some of the undesirables in this area. Nobody moved here for the power lines or the prison system down the street or the aroma that we get from Walker Industries from time to time. We all came here for a master plan community, and I think that we really need to stick to the plan on this. And I'm just going to say that a lot of us are going to be very disappointed if we see this developer deviate from this out of really what's just a plan to put some more houses in here. So anyhow, thanks for your time. That's really all I have to say on this, and I appreciate your consideration here.
Justin, thank you very much for your presentation. Does anyone have any questions for Justin? Seeing none, thank you, Justin, and thank you for coming and making your point of view known, and it's duly noted and will be responded to as part of the process. Up next, we have, who's that? Les Jackson. Up next, we have Les Jackson. Les, would you please state your name and address, and you're up next.
Hi, my name is Les Jackson. I live at 2 Venture Way in Thorold. A year ago, I bought this property under the assumption that there was going to be a town center right behind my property. I see the new plans have changed. Now there's going to be 8 homes. How is that fair to me when I bought it under the assumption there's going to be a town center right behind me? I don't think that's fair to me. So I'm against this 8 homes behind me.
And do you have any? Do you have anything further to add, Les?
No, that's pretty well it.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor if anyone has any questions for Les. Seeing none, Les, I want to thank you for coming and presenting your point of view. And again, it's documented and will be responded to. So thank you for coming to council this evening.
Thank you very much.
Up next. There was supposed to be an Evan. Evan's not here. How about Linda? Did you say? Linda. Oh, okay. And Evan's not here at this time? Okay, I'll read it again, and maybe he'll come in the meantime. Public input. Now at this time, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on the applications received? Please indicate to the clerk your desire to speak. Please provide your name and address for the public record. Is anyone on yet? I'll read it one more time. Now at this time, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on the applications received? Please indicate to the clerk your desire to speak. Please provide your name and address for the public record. There's no one there. Okay. Closing remarks and closing of the meeting. This fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13, pursuant to sections 22 and 34. Council will consider staff's recommendation report at a future meeting date. Please provide your contact information and indicate to the clerk at clerk@thorold.ca if you wish to receive notice of council's decision. That's clerk@thorold.ca. Alternatively, a letter requesting to receive notice of council's decision may be sent to the clerk. As such, the public meeting portion of this application is now closed. Now I'll move forward to presentations. We have one presentation, and that's from Tony Vandermaas, Chair of the Lake Gibson Preservation Task Force. Is Tony here? And Tony, are you there? I'll turn the floor over to you for your presentation. There he is. Welcome, Tony.
Oh, thank you. My Zoom suddenly cut out and had to restart, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was a message. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Okay, I'm here on behalf of the Lake Gibson Corridor Preservation Task Force once again. And I'm here to talk about our next steps in what we're doing with the task force. Just to remind everyone, when this committee was formed in 2001 by Councillor Neal, it was done with a mandate to determine what was to be preserved, establish a parkway corridor and explore options for preserving it, determine a parkway route connecting Short Hills Park, eventually with the Welland Canals Parkway, establish a public participation program for input and liaise with other established groups and committees, and address historical, recreational, educational, and environmental issues. Now, some of these mandates have been a little more quick and easy to hook up to. There are a lot of organizations, levels of government and whatnot involved, so we have had our share of meetings that went absolutely nowhere, but we keep trying. For those who are watching who may not know, the Lake Gibson is 27 acres of water. It's formerly a shallow valley created by the Beaver Dams Creek and the surrounding farmland. This corridor is home to two of Thorold's earliest settlements, Beaver Dams and DeQ Town. It was dammed off, the creek was dammed off and flooded in 1904 for the first time for a hydro reservoir. And then in 47, they did it again because they decided they needed to add more generating capacity. In addition to that, the lower lake also provides drinking water for thousands in Thorold and St. Catharines. It's also now a naturalized area, attracting wildlife and visitors. Our next steps toward the future is we're going to be solidifying our vision to come up with more detailed plans for that corridor. This will entail continued consultations. We have to consider marketing strategies. We want to finish the DeQ Trail. Eventually, part of our mandate was to hook up Short Hills with the circle route. So we would like to see it eventually zoned conservation. That is the land that's not already residential or other uses. For one more layer of protection, we do have greenbelt protection now, since we asked for it to be expanded to there. And we want to explore possible arrangements with the NPCA. But first, we have to do an inventory of all natural, historical, and cultural features. We've been doing that to a degree with one of our members is Thorold historian Sarah King Head, and she's done quite a bit of research on this area. So that is a lot of our background, but we're still searching for foundations of buildings that we know we're out there somewhere, but we haven't found the traces yet. We have to determine zoning and restrictions to all the various areas. We want to plot the connectivity, but by trails, the unfinished Front Hill spur trail, the roadways, and rights of way, the hydro and whatnot. We have to determine the boundaries of sensitive areas such as the Carolinian Forest, wetlands, of which there is quite a bit, government facilities, and other private property. So far we've been working with a variety of imprecise maps taken from Google or from zoning maps, or we need it to be mapped precisely and in much greater detail using GPS coordinates, etc., as we locate all these positions. The city of Thorold now has the software capability and with the latest hire, I guess, the staff training to do the mapping required. Therefore, we want to ask that council direct the manager of planning to assign that task to a staff member when schedules permit, which I believe is the basis for Councillor Neal's notice of motion. The work being done here, other than the mapping, is largely volunteer. It's time consuming. There aren't many members on our committee, and as you can imagine, people have other things to do besides this one committee. Many are in other committees or have jobs. So it'll take some years for us to finish this project, but the corridor touches on many aspects of Thorold's existence. It's our industrial, historical, cultural, and the necessities of modern life, such as water and power. It will be a showcase with great tourism potential. But we have to get it all sorted out properly, and it's worth doing right. So thank you very much for your time. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Tony. Are there questions for Tony? Councillor Sentence.
Yes,
thank you very much for the presentation, Tony. I love the direction we're going with outdoor spaces and activities. I ask this every time. I would assume that at some point opening up that park area that's fenced off across from the Morningstar Mill, is that part of this? I'll keep asking.
Oh, no, it's not dead. We keep trying. So far, they've been giving a little, but, not quite as much as we'd like to, but I think they're at least willing to give us the room to run the trail by there, plus, a strip of land.
Okay.
But we have to pursue that further yet. That's coming up this year. It's a little hard to do all these things right now in the COVID environment. Meetings are hard to arrange.
I understand. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Kenny.
I would just like to ask Tony a question. You talked about volunteers. I'm not talking about being on the committee itself, but if there's individuals in Thorold like that would like to volunteer their time for when there's some work to be done in that park, is there a number or a person that they would contact, and maybe we could put it out there? Because there are people that might have, a few Saturdays in the summer, or if they're retired, some time during the week that might want to get out and volunteer in that park and do some work. So I'm just wondering if there'd be a number that they could contact.
Well, they could contact me by email.
Okay.
I'm not often near my phone and because I'm in so many meetings, I don't usually have my ringer on myself. So, but my email address is thorold.crier at simpatico.ca. And when we have a project that requires extra bodies for whatever we should have to get done, I'll certainly be I'll make up a list of contacts and let them know should there be anything. Sure.
Yeah, and Tony, we could put that out as well on the city social media and website as well. So if there's ever anything, make sure that we get that information. Councillor Neal.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank Tony and the committee, and there are about 6 people on the committee, so it's not just 1 or 2 people, or just a half a dozen. And I will do a little bit more detail when I bring the motion forward in a few minutes.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, Tony, thank you very much for that informative presentation.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to turn motions of council support, City of Thorold, moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Sentence, and I'll turn that over to Councillor Neal. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's one of Thorold's legacies, this particular area. The Lake Gibson Conservation Area is a diverse environmental, cultural, historic part of Thorold in the Niagara region, in Ontario, and even in Canada. From Allenburg with the cairn to the first shovel of dirt turned for the first canal, the eastern section of the area has historical and cultural parts of the first, second, third, and fourth canals in the area. The Welland Canals Parkway Trail is a major walking, cycling route through the eastern section. The Merritt Trail traverses the area. One of the first railway lines goes through the park. The village of Beaver Dams with a historical school and Beaver Dams Church is in this particular area. The Smith Cemetery with many historical people are buried there. Lake Gibson, Lake Moody, flowing into the first hydroelectric power station in Ontario is there. Our drinking water system, as Tony mentioned, is there. The Indigenous Native Crossroads are at the corner of Beaver Dams Road and DeQ Roads, with DeQ Road being a major trail to Hamilton and beyond for the Indigenous people. DeQ House, where Lord Secord warned the British about the American advance resulting in the Battle of Beaver Dams, is in this particular area. The Indigenous Sacred Monument is next to the DeQ House. Morning Star Mill is there. DeQ Parkway with all the cultural and history along it is there. The environment through the area with the animals, birds, unusual trees, plants, and fauna. The sunsets from Melswart Park. The conservation area attaches to the Short Hills Provincial Park on the west. The Lake Gibson Conservation Area is at the geographical center of the Niagara region, making it very accessible to everyone who wants to get outside and enjoy nature. We need to create walking trails with signage recognizing all the attributes of the conservation area, with places to sit, observe, enjoy nature, and exercise. We have been locked in our safety bubble and need a place to enjoy the outdoors. The Lake Gibson Conservation Committee have been working hard on creating a lasting legacy since it was formed by council in 2001. The committee would like the planning department to design a plan for the conservation area to create a lasting legacy for all to enjoy. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, I move that upon the request from the Lake Gibson Committee at its February 3rd, 2021 meeting, and further to report prepared by Sarah King Head in 2014, council requests that the planning department prepare updated maps identifying the physical features, cultural heritage assets of the Lake Gibson corridor, and explore having the corridor named as a conservation area. And it was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Sentence.
Speakers to the motion. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I feel this, Mr. Councillor, this is a great endeavor. I really appreciate the volunteers and the committee, and this is a great thing going forward. My only concern is there a cost attached to us? Is just to what we're asking the planning to do? Should we not maybe refer this to a report to get some further information, just to put some numbers together? But I'm fully supportive of the proposal, 100%. I just think we need some to identify some costs related to this proposal. Thank you.
Denise, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to the councillor. The first portion of this project is to undertake the mapping of this area and to look at the different cultural and heritage and other aspects of this area. And we do now have a GIS technician who can help to undertake this work. Any kind of projects that might stem out of this, from assessing the maps and from discussions with the committee, that may require funding, and that would be brought forward in a future date, at a future date. But right now, the mapping of this area can be done in-house with current staff.
Does that answer your question, Councillor DeRose?
Denise?
What's that?
You, Mr. Mayor, can you put a cost to it? Is it no big deal? Is it just, Denise, can you put a cost to it, please?
Through the mayor to the councillor, in terms of staff time?
Yes.
This is something, that I'd have to check and have a conversation with our GIS technician, but I don't anticipate it taking her more than a few full days work to undertake the project.
So would staff recommend referring to a report or just going ahead with it? What does staff recommend? Any other staff members want to speak up?
Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much. It's a good question from Councillor DeRose. And as Tony mentioned earlier, it's going to take years for this to come to fruition. It's not going to happen overnight, but we need to map the area so we know what we're dealing with and what projects we might take on or council of the day, because I won't be here when this all gets completed. So is there a cost? Yes, there will be a cost, future cost. Who knows? Trails, signage, all of those factors, a history of the area. There's a whole range of things that will happen over a period of time. And to answer your question, though, there will be a cost at some future date for all of this to happen. But councils of the day, whether it's this council or future council, will make decisions on how much more to do with the park. But I believe we need it to identify it as a conservation area. And 20 years from now, when you and I are retired and laying on the beach somewhere, Councillor DeRose, we'll look back on this and say this was the right thing to do.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose, finish up.
Yeah, so are we just, Councillor Neal, could you just review what we're asking for today? Is it just for the mapping part that Denise alluded to, or And that's it right now? And
That's-
like, are we taking it one step at a time?
We're taking one step at a time. It's just the mapping at this present moment and looking at maybe identifying an area of conservation and what do we name it? And that will be a future time also.
Thank you. I will support that. Thank you.
I had Councillor Wilson with her. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I'm really excited to see this come forward. I do actually walk in that area many times a week. And I often think that there's opportunity for different pathways in there, like the railways, like was being mentioned. And it's a beautiful spot that so many people probably don't even know is here in Thorold. So I think this is amazing, and I'm excited to see we can do something in-house and save ourselves some money, and that we have the technology and the brains to do that. So I think it's great. It has my full support.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, there's no motions to receive in 5 minutes. We got statement by councillors. Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, can I waive procedural bylaw? I just got a call earlier tonight, and I think everybody got an email, and I know Councillor Wilson spoke to the lady too. Am I able to bring up a motion forward to look at maybe a staff recommendation or report on the dangerous dog bylaw? Am I able to do that?
Under statement by councillors, I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Sure, through the mayor to members of council. Councillor DeRose, if you do wish to bring forth a motion to request the waiving of the procedural bylaws, we just need a 2/3 to do that. So if you wish, we can just draft the motion to say exactly what you said.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. And Joanne, yes, even just to get a staff recommendation or report or something, just because I didn't want to wait till the next meeting, because even though we were just contacted today, I thought it's an urgent matter, just because there are some dangerous dogs, specifically the one in this case that if you all read your emails from tonight, you'll see what I'm referring to. But yeah, what would you recommend, Joanne? I'd appreciate it.
Through the mayor to members of council, you have one of two options. You could do it through statement of councillors, or you can waive procedures to include it in a notice of motion. So it would be up to you, Councillor DeRose, and we'll make sure that we support it in the appropriate spot, whatever you choose.
I think under statement, you're going to get a staff report. We could do that under statement by councillors. Yeah. Okay, so when we open statement by councillors, then we'll bring it up, Councillor DeRose, which we're hitting now. Okay, so we're under statement by councillors, and we have a request to waive the procedural bylaw to allow Councillor DeRose to bring forward his ask for a staff report on this issue. So we need a 2/3 vote to allow that. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so I'll let you bring that forward first, then Councillor DeRose, and then we'll move forward with the rest of the statement. You want a staff report and explain what you want, and we'll...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been brought to my attention that we do have a bylaw against dangerous dogs that attack other dogs, but it's just a fine. So I wanted us to look at this because I think we have to go beyond, because even though it was a dog killed in this situation, it could be a person in the near future, because there are kids in the neighborhood, and I don't think it's safe. And the one thing about what our responsibility is as a councillor, we want to keep our community safe as we can. So if I can ask staff to come forward with a report regarding the dangerous dog bylaw and any recommendations they have, and maybe let us know when it was last changed or implemented.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Hanley. Okay, speakers to that. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm excited to see Councillor DeRose bring this forward. I did speak with this lady today too. It was a horrific situation, and I understand her concern. I know we had a situation with a dangerous dog in our area, and I was really surprised how very little we could do about it, especially with our kids being, around and dogs getting out of fenced areas. And so I'm 100% in support with this. I think we need to be able to have more control over the situation to protect our community, like Councillor DeRosa said. So I'm in support of that.
Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also in support of it, and I know she referenced to what other municipalities in the Niagara Region's bylaws are, so I'm sure that the report could also do some research in what our neighboring municipalities are doing in regards to this type of situation. And seeing that we're going to be discussing dog parks tonight in a report that's coming forward, so it may be something that we need to consider with implementing such down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you, so that it makes sure it includes the comparisons, okay? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Okay, I've got Councillor Decker up now. She has 2 items, and go ahead, Councillor Decker. The first one's the pool.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just wanted an update. I know last year we had some issues with the pool, and if the construction was completed, and there's been some asks on expected opening dates of the pool this year.
Okay, we have Curtis Dray, our manager of facilities here and community services. Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we are on schedule for a June 24th opening this year. So we're on schedule as budgeted for, so no issues.
Thank you, Curtis. And I do have another question. I know sometimes through the summer when we have the heat waves, I know the pool closes at its regular time. Can we look at it if we're having a heat wave to extend the hours of the pool time? I know there's a lot of people that don't have air conditioning and stuff, so to be open longer, I know it requires to have staff stay later, but is that an option we can look at?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I'm making a note of that right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then you're, go ahead, Councillor Neal. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just comment on the pools and the splash pads. Are the splash pads being opened now?
Oh, the splash pads are open. They opened on the 22nd, I think. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regard to the pool opening, capacity limits, what will be the set at that time? I know that they're looking at over a process through the months of June and July, and how we may be addressing a situation here. We're looking at high temperatures this weekend coming up and that stuff, extreme heat, that's what they're pre-warning, and get in a situation where we got an extensive amount of people want access to the pool, but we're limited to how many. So if the social distance, seeing that the emergency order had been put in place yesterday until December for another 7 months, how are we gonna control social distancing, and do they not have to wear masks in the pool? How are we gonna address this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so right now there's ongoing conversations with the Life Saving Society, which is involving all the municipalities, frankly. And they're discussing what the options are and what that looks like based on the provincial orders at the time. So right now, we don't know necessarily what stage we're going to be in at that point once the pool opens. So we'll open appropriately based on the Life Saving Society's recommendations as well as the provincial order guidelines.
Okay.
But we're working on it.
Because with the because my concern is the distancing, being part of the mandate, that's probably going to be one of the biggest things. Even after people are vaccinated, they're going to want us the distance, because they're already saying we still not may be protected. So who knows how far that's going to go. So we'll wait and see. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, your second item, Councillor Decker.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I've had some inquiries about the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, about planting trees in memoriam of someone that's passed away. I know that Councillor Kenny brought up at a few meetings ago about setting up a fundraising committee to do fundraising. I think it was for benches or etc. I'm just wondering, is there going to, if somebody is interested in doing that, say planting a tree, is that going to be an option? Is that something that we're looking at as part of the reconfiguration of the park?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, that's absolutely possible. We currently do have a policy in place right now that we can look at that and still address that as well. But the construction of the park would be done closer to the end of the year. And then at that point, we can definitely consider that.
Okay, perfect. They just wanted me to ask, so thank you.
I think that's something, Curtis, that we can make, at some point, get messaging out about memorial benches and trees, and because I'm sure that if the residents know, I'm sure we're going to get some uptake on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Oh, sorry, that just, I don't know, this is inappropriate for me to ask at this point, but it brought up, I had a resident ask me how we get more trees at our parks. And so I don't know if that's something like current parks like Confederation Park, for example. We don't have a lot of large trees at any of our parks, which I think is, I don't know, it'd be nice to change that if we could get more trees. I don't know what the process is for us to do that. Do we have to make a motion?
Do you want to, do we have a policy, Curtis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of adding trees into parks, I don't believe we do have a policy regarding that. So I'm happy to work with the staff internally on that and have a look at that by all means.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I was in Hamilton a couple weeks ago and just at one of their parks outside of a hospital, and it was just gorgeous how many trees they had in shaded areas, and it just made me think we don't have that much coverage in our parks. So I know obviously it'll take a lot of years for it to grow, but one day we'll be retired, right? Like Councillor Neal said, sitting under one of those trees thinking we were a part of that.
Councillor Neal. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you. I brought forward a motion a while ago now, a few months I'm talking about planting more trees, and there was supposed to be a report coming back sometime regarding a policy in planting trees in all of our parks and other areas of Thorold, because there's a federal tree planting program for one thing. And that's the reason I brought it up a few meetings ago, and I haven't heard anything since. So maybe whether it's a policy that we need, or at least looking into obtaining trees and planting them.
So we have a report coming back. Can we include, make sure the parks are included in that, Curtis?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we can definitely look at that, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Hanley.
Thank you very much. I do believe we got a tree policy in place for residents, that if you have no tree in front of your residence on a boulevard, you can call the city and we will plant a tree. That's part of it at no cost to the residents. I know that's, we have a policy for that in the city.
Okay. I know that the region just a huge initiative at the DQ water treatment plant. There's going to be a major tree planting going on there, so which is good news. Okay.
Yeah, like Councillor Neal said, I think it's $1 billion. The billion trees planted, they wanted something like that.
Yeah, so that report will come back. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think in our budget, I believe it was last year actually, we had the tree, we put a lot of money towards a program for tree inventory. So I just kind of assumed adding trees was part of that, but
a lot of that,
correct me if I'm wrong.
No, like, a lot of that, Councillor Wilson, is replacing trees that we're losing to the emerald ash borer. So that's replacing trees that we're losing. Councillor Kenny.
I think we're talking about two different things here. The federal program, I'm pretty sure, is all about seedlings. We're not, I don't think we're looking at that. I think we're talking about planting trees in parks for shade that are you know, mature, half decent sized mature trees. So yeah, I guess that'll be part of the report, but I think we are talking about.
There are two parts to it. No, that's a good point. Okay, and any further comments? Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a wonderful idea. Love trees. I just planted 4 in the weekend. I actually bought them within the Thorold limits on Highway 20, and I'll refer staff to great place to get them. But anyway, just to backtrack a bit on the splash pads, just so everybody's aware, because I'm not aware, to staff, Curtis, can you please just let us know, do you have to call for the splash pads to make an appointment if you go with your kids? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no appointment is necessary. Typically, we open the splash pads at 10 in the morning till about 8 p.m. at night. They're set on timers. The washrooms are open, so staff are going around on a regular cleaning routine to clean them.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further thing, Councillor Decker, you're covered there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And up next, I had Councillor Hanley on housing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make council aware of some issues that's happening within our municipality and the Niagara region. And one is actually, as in the housing market, where people are receiving and getting more than what they've asked for on the asking price, there's now bidding wars happening within our municipalities in the Niagara region on rental properties that I've been aware of, and through personal messaging, some individuals within our municipality and others outside of the municipality, and that concerns me. That's making it ever hard now to find affordable housing in an area we have a lot of individuals that are on the poverty level. You know, we're trying to get employers up to the $17 an hour wage, and I just want to make aware of council. And not only that, is that some discrimination I feel against people. I was approached and contacted by a couple individuals recently who had been trying to rent a resident in Thorold for their family and willing to pay the rent. And after going through an interview and seeing if you met the process, whatever, we're told that they weren't eligible because they weren't students, that they didn't want families in the houses, that they wanted students. And that concerns me too, because I know people that have been looking for housing, not only in Thorold. This has only happened in Thorold, but in other municipalities. And I want to make council aware that this is what our residents and people that are trying to move to Thorold to raise their families are having difficulty with, is that they're now having to bid on rental properties, and the highest bidder gets the property, and they're also being subjected to what I feel is discrimination, because a lot of the residents around here and the people that own the homes in this area just want students. They don't want families renting their homes, but yet they're advertising these places for rent. I, in fact, made a call today to an area in Thorold here, and they made it clear that they only want to rent to students, and I don't feel that's right when there's a crisis in our municipality and a lot of municipalities in regards to housing, and Councillor Neal can attest to that. We try constantly to improve our housing and get more residents into housing that deserve housing, and they're being discriminated against. So I just want to make council aware that's what's happening in our municipality, and I'm making other higher politicians and us aware of it, and hopefully that somewhere down the road it can be addressed. I don't want to put any motions or anything forward on the floor, because I don't really think it's going to go that far, but I just want to know that's what residents are now facing in Thorold. A bidding war on rental properties and the unavailability of getting rental properties because in some cases they're not students.
Thank you,
So I just
Councillor
wanna make
Hanley.
council aware of that.
Councillor
Thank you
Neal,
very much.
did you have your hand up, Councillor Neal?
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Hanley, but we are trying to do, the city's trying to do something about it, more long-term than short-term maybe. But we passed at the last council meeting a number of initiatives on age-friendly situations on the Burlington Home Share Model, tiny homes, secondary suites, and modular homes. Our planning staff are looking into that to see what we can do with that. We have a housing subcommittee from the One Thorold that are looking at affordable housing initiatives, and we'll be bringing forward a proposal sometime in the near future regarding that. So those are some little things, but I agree with, especially with COVID being in place right now, it's really, really difficult to find housing that's affordable.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
I do agree. I know of, hearing of that too, especially being bidding wars. It is very hard for people. There is, of course, the Tenants Act that they can, if they're told that that is discrimination, just like we can't have a bylaw that says you can't have a rent to a student. The same applies, right? So they can actually go through the tribunal and take legal action, but I'm not sure if there's anything as a council we could do to prevent that since those laws are in place. But that is really disgusting to hear, actually. It's a shame.
Thank you. Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what Councillor Wilson said through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's got there's gotta be some legal challenges because I think what they're doing is illegal. You're not allowed to do that. And if anybody on staff has any information, or maybe Councillor Longo, anybody in real estate that can share with us, because I know that I would consider that to be illegal and discrimination, 100%. Thank you.
I know last year there was a lot of student rentals that weren't full because of the issues at the university with the COVID, that they were opening it up and renting it out to anybody they could get as far as tenants went. But, you know, that was just a short-term issue, I'm sure, because they're expecting all the students to be back this fall. Is there anyone else? Okay. I'll move on then. I had Councillor Neal. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a proposal that's been brought forward to the Public Works Department from the Friends of Lower Seacourt. And the proposal is that they want to undertake work to improve aesthetics, accessibility, and educational programming potential at the Q House Park in preparation for the upcoming Canada Summer Games. And between the Canada Games Park and the Q House Heritage Park are many points of historical and cultural interest. As a concurrent Canada Games legacy initiative, we are proposing to a creation of an 8.6 kilometer Indigenous focused heritage trail. So this is coming forward to our Public Works, and what I would like to do is to put a motion forward to send it to Public Works to have them take a look at the proposal and see what we can do. So I move, and second by Councillor Sentence, that the proposal from the Friends of Lower Seacourt on improvements to the Q House Heritage Park and a plan to create a heritage trail be forwarded to Jeff Holman, Director of Public Works, to bring back a report at the June 15th council meeting regarding the proposal.
Okay, so you have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Sentence, to ask for a staff report on that. Speakers to that report. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
It's a great initiative, Councillor Neal. I will support that. Ironically, we just studied the War of 1812 with my grade 7 students, and the connection was the locality of everything that happened. We're studying all the battles that happened locally, and it's tremendous. So I will support that 100%. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, that's the end of statements, correct? So now we move on to delegations to report, and we have one delegation. We have Janice Fedoruk, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Fedorowicz, consultant with Wavefront Planning and Design Incorporated. Janice, are you there? Is Janice there?
She is there.
She's, she must get the PowerPoint's coming.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Hello? Janice?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
I do. Can you see it?
No, I just see your email, but I don't see the PowerPoint.
Okay, so it's on the wrong screen. Let me try again. having some technical difficulties. I apologize. Okay.
Okay, we're up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Sometimes it's difficult when you have 2 or 3 screens going at the same time. I'm very pleased to be here, Mr. Mayor and councillors, to present to you the Park Standards for You project and what we have accomplished in the last 10 months. So we are seeking council approval of the Park Standards for You planning documents that were produced, which is the Adult Fitness Design Manual and the City of Thorold Construction Standards and Specifications. Once these are approved, we are expecting that City of Thorold staff will use them if there are any park development projects that they are doing in-house, and will also use them to judge the construction drawings and design standards that are created by the private sector for parks that are subbed out that way. So we are concentrating on 4 park elements that were identified as part of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan: accessible seating, adult fitness, dog parks, and park signs. Just wanted to mention that accessibility was a very large concern and something we looked at throughout the process. We consulted with the Harrington Group. Donna Harrington was part of our design review committee meetings, and she also reviewed all of the deliverables that we did at the end. So everything that we have done, we believe to be of the highest standards for accessible design. Just mentioning also that sustainability was another concern and something that we incorporated into everything that we did throughout the process. So it was a 5-step process. It started with vision and objectives, and we're now at step 5 at final documents. Public engagement was a very big part of what we did. So these are all the parts that we went through for the last 10 months. One of the most significant were the pop-up events where we went to 6 of the different parks. We spoke with people one-on-one, respecting social distancing, of course, and invited people to do the survey. And the results of that were that we received more survey respondents than we needed for this project. So I really believe that what we're presenting to you today is a really good representative sample of what the citizens of Thorold told us were important to them and what they really wanted in their parks. So some of the top priorities we're just going to show here very briefly, but all of these that the public selected, we incorporated into the design details that were the final results. So for accessible bench, this bench in particular was the one that was much favored. It's the Magdalen MBE, and the accessibility parts are the side arms and the central arm, which can be moved to any position. And just want to mention that the material of this bench is it's a faux wood product, so that means that it's part wood and part IPE plastic. This is a sustainable building material, and it lasts a lot longer than wood itself. So it's something where the slats that are made of that, they won't have to be replaced for maybe 20, 30 years, whereas a wood bench, that could happen within just a couple of years. So it's a sustainable and long-lasting material. For the accessible bench and table, the favored one was the hexagon shape, and it does have a missing seat, and that it allows it to be accessible and allows wheelchair access. We couldn't come to a consensus on the color that was favored by everybody, so it's left open to be decided on a park by park basis. For the dog parks, we went through and we created construction details for everything that is typically found within a dog park. Just a couple of these I will mention briefly, and one is the dog waste system. So we created construction details for two. The first one is the traditional one, which is basically a trash receptacle that has a lid on it. And the second is the Sotera system that you see here on the screen. This is an underground storage system. You can see the area for the deposit is about waist height, but everything is stored underground. And what that does is it reduces odor so that it can be declared almost odorless, which is something that surrounding residents would be very much in favor. So we've done both details so that at the time when the parks are constructed, the city can decide which one is most appropriate for that particular park. The other one I want to mention is the dog water bowl in Mister, and that's because one of the items that a lot of residents identified as important was to be able to cool down their dogs during the heat in the summer and to have it be something that's safe and something that is very cleanly as well. So after a lot of deliberation, looking at all the products that were out there, what could we do for this? The best solution we found was there is a product that combines a dog watering bowl that is at ground level for dogs to drink, and it has misters that are up about waist high that will spray out water. And so that responds to the public interest in being able to cool the dogs and of course to provide drinking water at the same time. So onto the park signs, we went through about every single design option available in terms of materials, colors, how it looks, what shape, and this by far was the design that was favored the most by both city staff and residents. So it is a traditional design. You can see that there will be, for the large and small entry signs, there will be stone piers at the side, and the Thorold blue color will be very strong with the City of Thorold logo at the center, followed by the neighborhood name, the name of the park, and then the year that the park was opened. The rest of the signs, information sign and direction signs, will have the same materials and colors so that we have a look and feel that will be similar and will look like a really well-designed and maintained park. And finally, the adult fitness manual. We did a little bit of a different approach for this because when we looked at it, there was about 600 different park equipment for adult fitness that we could choose from. So it just seemed a little overwhelming to do construction drawings for 600 units. So what we did instead was we put together a design manual that will help the city to select which of the 600 will be the most appropriate. This design manual shortlists that so that it is so that there's about 100 different options, and they're laid out according to the fitness type and to whether it's an individual equipment, whether it's a group equipment, whether it's a complex where it has a number together, 10 or 15 together, whether it's an obstacle course, or whether it's parkour. And parkour is the newest type of adult fitness that is out there that allows a lot of jumping, swinging, and running, but not in any particular order. You can do it in many different ways. These are just some examples of what's inside the manual. So we have some construction drawings that are in there. In the middle one that you see, this is an example from Landscape Structures, which is one of the shortlisted companies where we put in their equipment, the type of equipment they offer. Then on the side, you can see that we have put in different requirements for setbacks and siting that will help park designers to be able to lay them out in an appropriate way. The last thing that we had to look at was surfacing, and we didn't do it for any one of the particular 4 elements, but these could apply to any one of them. So we curated standards for artificial turf, for poured in place rubber surfacing, for asphalt, and for concrete, and they could apply in any given situation. So how will these be used? For the accessible seating, the dog parks and the park sign, it's as I mentioned in the beginning, whether there's a park upgrade or a new park, both the design consultants and the city will use these to prepare the construction drawings, and for the city in particular as a reference to gauge whether the construction drawings submitted meet all the standards that have already been prepared. For the adult fitness, it has that function, but it has an additional function where we can use it more upfront to decide which of the adult fitness equipment is most appropriate for a particular park. So that's where city staff will go through with the residents in another public process to determine which ones will be best in a certain situation. So what are the next steps after this is that we are told that there are 4 upcoming park projects for which the park standards would be very much appropriate for, and that is why we are today asking for approval of the adult fitness manual and the construction standards and specifications. And that's the end of my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Janice. Is there any questions for Janice? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Rose, trying to unmute. Thank you. Thank you, Janice, for the wonderful presentation. I just had quick questions, just going forward for us in future situations like this. Do you have the numbers from this? I'm just curious as to how many people in Thorold participate in this. Did you have any numbers for the survey 1 and 2, just so we can know if we're reaching enough people when we advertise these things and we're trying to get people to be proactive and get involved in decision making?
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will say that the number of total respondents that we had from all surveys was close to 300. I believe it was 295, 296. And the amount that we calculated that we needed for the population the size of Thorold and to do this particular project was about 150. So we exceeded that by quite a bit, and we were very, very pleased with the results.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, another great report. Thank you very much, Janice, and thanks to our staff, Curtis and your crew, for working with them. Again, outdoor facilities, young kids and older adults. Very exciting times. Thank you again, everyone.
Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder to move that report forward, and we'll bring it forward? I got Councillor Hanley as a mover, Councillor Decker as a seconder to move PWCS 2021-48 forward. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So we'll move to discussion report PWCS 2021-48. I have a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor DeRose, and I'll turn this over to, is this going to be Curtis? Are you bringing this forward, Manager of Community Services and Facilities? Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation is that 1, that council adopt the park design standards as outlined in this report, and 2, that staff be directed to update the capital forecast using these design standards to revitalize our neighborhood and community parks, and 3, that staff be directed to incorporate the design standards in new parks, capital projects, and front-ending agreements with the development community.
Questions for Curtis? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Curtis, is there a timeline on this, or is just let's get started on it and put it in gear? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So certain projects are already on the go, Battle of Beaver Dams being one of them, where these standards will be adopted. Merritt Meadows, we were waiting on this meeting to tender that process out. So we're going to get started right away.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
No, it was an excellent report and that stuff, especially when they showed the design. I think it's the first time I've really seen a report come forward that actually show the logistics of how it's going to be built and that stuff, how the rocks are going to be set, actually true definition of the landscape architecture that's going to be involved. It was a great report, and I just like to commend everybody, and it's great to see that it's finally moving forward. It's long awaited.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Is there anyone else? Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, as mentioned by Councillor Decker earlier, I spoke about the memorial benches and trees and stuff, and after that I spoke with Curtis, and Curtis told me that anybody wants one should go through him, but I like to go further than that and maybe start advertising or put it out there on social media for people that are interested to contact a certain name at the city, whether it's Curtis or Jeff or Don or whoever. They need a number to contact, because there are people out there that are interested, they've told me, in buying trees or a bench. So we got to put something in concrete out there.
Councillor Kenny, that's a great idea, but that's not pertaining to this report. This report is a separate issue.
Well, it's okay.
But that's your point's well taken, and I brought it up earlier, and it's something we need to move on for sure.
Well, it's stuff in the report, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Well, there is on bench design, yes, but that's not about memorial or buying trees. That's a separate policy. Is there anyone further to talk on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we move back to consent reports. There's 4 consent reports moved by Councillor Hanley and seconded by Councillor Decker that Council approve the following consent reports: 15A, B, C, and D. Is there anyone that wants to pull a report? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can we pull 15, DF 2021-15, please?
DF 2021-15? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got you. Okay, so we're going to do 15B, C, and D. Is that fine with everyone? And mover, Councillor Hanley, second, Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So we'll now bring forward 15A, and that's mover, Councillor Hanley, and a seconder, Councillor Decker. That's DF 2021-15, that the corporate expense card policy 300-19 be modified to include permissions for supervisors to receive cards. And Councillor DeRose, if you bring that forward, you want questions? And our Director of Finance, Maria Morrow's on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, to our Director of Finance. Just, is this going to make our work situation more efficient?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's the intent of the policy. The policy has been in place since 2014. It was limited to department heads and managers. There was a request from one of the departments to get a supplier credit card that really would not have been assigned to any employee. So we were concerned about the accountability. So we felt that the best approach would be to open this up and allow supervisors, so that if they are working in a specific area, need to make a small dollar purchase, they have that capability and save on staff time.
Thank you, Maria. I really appreciate us being more efficient. That's great. Who's going to monitor this, Maria? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the employee does have, the policy does speak to the employee's obligations under the policy for use of cards. There is an acknowledgement form that the employee needs to sign to ensure that they understand what their obligations are and what the the allowable uses of the cards are. In addition, the monthly expense report is approved by the department head and by myself before it's paid.
Great, thank you. I just have one more concern or question. If I go to 5.2, it talks about, I'm sorry, number 4. It talks about, and you hate to think like this, but there are consequences for misuse. And it just talks about further discipline measures. Would that, to anybody on staff that can answer this, it might be human resource, but does that include termination for fraudulent use? That's that, because termination isn't in there, just says further discipline measures. Should it be written in a contract at possible termination, just so we don't have any legal issues as far as if someone does cross the line and need to be terminated, which, you know, you hate to even talk about, but I think you have to be proactive with that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that, there are different levels of misuse of the card, like the policy does say what you can and can't buy. You know, say, for example, an employee buys something of a capital item that really is not allowed under the policy. That would be, misuse of the card, but it may not necessarily result in termination as opposed to, the straight fraud. I think that the policy is written in such a way that it does allow the CAO, department head, flexibility, depending on the severity of the fraudulent use or the misuse of the card. I don't think we have to go to that extreme to actually specify that. I think just by saying, will result in further disciplinary action, well, in its extreme form, that would be termination.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Kenny, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, the report explained everything in the policy, and why would we even talk about our employees with fraud? That would be dealt by HR on a separate issue altogether. I didn't like that.
Okay, Councillor Kenny, just
line of questioning.
That's the end of
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. I don't need to be criticized about my questioning.
Okay, that's the end of that discussion. Please,
Councillor,
let's be courteous to one another. Thank you. Councillor Hanley.
It comes down to using the card for personal gain. If you're not using the card for personal gain, then it's not fraudulent, as Maria said. That's the way I look at it. And I see no problems with the question by Councillor DeRose. He had concerns and he's putting them forward to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Is there anyone else? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we move on to discussion report, and we have PWCS 2021-46. I have a mover, Councillor Kenny, and a seconder, Councillor Longo, and I turn this over again to Curtis Dray, Manager of Community Services and Facilities. Go ahead, Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation is 1, that council approve an emergency roof repair at the Thorold Community Arena, and 2, that council award the contract to DF Brown Roofing in the amount of $25,679 plus HST funded from the arena building reserves.
And that's Doherty Arena, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's 2 sections of roofs. There's actually one at the south end of the Doherty Arena and one just to the north end of the Doherty Arena, which is kind of a adjoining building that connects the 2 arenas.
No, but I just want to make it clear, it's the Doherty Arena, it's not the White Arena, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we had a mover, Councillor Kenny, and a seconder, Councillor Longo, and are there any questions for Curtis? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Curtis, you might have not been here, but do you know who did the roof last? And how long ago was it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so that section of roof we're speaking of right now, my understanding is the original roof to the building, which is quite old. We did have DF Brown Roofing complete a significant repair on the flat roof over the lobby about a year and a half ago. So that's been my tenure here. Anyways.
Okay, so it's not recently done then. Okay, thank you. And just maybe to the CAO, how much is in the arena building reserves presently? Do we have an actual number that we can just for personal knowledge?
Our Director of Finance is on. And
I can take that, Mayor. We are projecting about 90,000 to the end of 2021. So this will come off the 91,000.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Councillor DeRose? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor DeRose. Any further questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. Notices of motion. Okay. Bylaws. First reading of the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor Sentence that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Bylaws 66, 67, 68, 69, and 70. And 2021. And that the same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Final reading of the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Sentence, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Adjournment. Moved by Councillor DeRose, seconded by Councillor Neal, that this meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:17 p.m. Councillor, wait, I had Councillor Kenny. What? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, I'd just like to say bylaw 67-2021, McCartney changed to Overhaul Drive. The many of the residents on the street want to let me know. Thank the staff, whoever worked on that. And they're quite happy about that. And to the staff, we know we have some other ones. If we could work on them, it'd be good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. So then again, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:17. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And thank you, everyone. And have a good rest of the evening. And